Hey, this is Yatco, the English voice of the Raiden Shogun in Genshin Impact, and Nobara Kugisaki in Jujutsu Kaisen, and you're watching the Points of Experience podcast. That's so nerdy. Wow. Okay.
Because it happens right after. I feel like it's fresh, and now we can recap everything. We're just discussing why we do our outros first and our intros after our outros.
Questioning our design philosophy here.
What do you think? You think we should do it another way? Should we record our intros right after the episode, or what do you think would be the correct formula for us to give the best experience?
I already know the future of what. So whoever's listening right now, I know what happens already.
Yeah,
and you don't. Doesn't
yeah.
That's kind of rude of me, you know.
But it's also kind of benevolent of you to share such great insight that you're gonna grace everybody with and be like,
yeah,
you're right now. Basically, the design of this is saying, hey, if you're curious about this episode, this is what might happen in the future, 100%, because it already happened. We've experienced it, we've lived it.
I mean, conversely, I could set up an illegal gambling website where I make people gamble on what's going to happen, but I already know because we just recorded it.
Don't do that, or you're going to get banned on Twitch. Which is where Anne plays Genshin Impact. You don't want to ruin that. So,
isn't that our guest for today?
That is our guest, I believe. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
How did I know that?
If you are not familiar with Anne Yatco's resume of stuff, I mean, we talk a lot about some of the big titles. Raiden Shogun, Nobara, and Jujutsu Kaisen, one of my favorite animes. I think is one of the coolest, freshest, kind of darkest takes on the conventional, shonen, bright style, where it's funny and quirky. It is such a good show, and honestly,
Genshin Impact.
Yeah, I mean, Genshin is the beast that keeps on giving. It just gets better and better and better.
They gotta make an anime series out of it, right?
They are.
Okay,
what?
Yeah. I mean, you
didn't know this?
Even
they
know
are.
that, but I knew because it just seems like the right thing to do.
I'm curious about it. So yeah, I think that's, unless they were trolling us with, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's confirmed. There's going to be a Genshin anime. But yeah, she's one of the best parts about Genshin, and she's worked in so many titles, Violent Evergarden, Mobile Suit Gundam, To Your Eternity, Saxon Guns. We even talk about one of her favorite shows that you're gonna have to stick around to see her recommendation on what to listen to after you watch this episode. Yeah. But she's been in Boruto, she's been in Lawson, Devilman Crybaby. She's one of the most unique actors, and her crafting of characters is so fully fleshed out and three-dimensional, and I gush over how much she threw my mind for a loop when I found out she was voicing kind of both the characters in Genshin. That was a very confusing time for me. We also talk about her early life, starting out, interested in karaoke, up into pursuing a vastly different career than acting, and spending some time away from that doing something that is much more clinical, would you say? Much more note-keeping, I guess is a good way, as I should put it. She did a lot of writing.
With my nickname a little bit. But,
sure, I like that. Yes. So we talk about that. We also talk about her process, even from start to finish, of getting auditions, what made her fall in love with acting in the first place. All around, one of my favorite episodes. We say this at the end, but I really feel like this is one of those episodes that has every bit that you expect from a great episode. It's fun, educational. It's everything that I wanted, and we have great chemistry for the podcast. As weird as that is to say, she was very generous in what she offers to everybody, and her words of encouragement, I hope, land on you all if you're interested in pursuing similar professional pursuits.
I mean, if you're looking for a classic Pox episode, I don't think you have to look any further. Yeah. You know how those bands or musical artists that you like, that you're scared they're going to change up their style in the next album? it's not. You're not. Don't be scared. Just listen. Listen to the episode. It's gonna be just as good as all the other ones, if not better.
Everything you wanted and more.
Our style.
Nope.
Don't worry about it.
Although, even though you're protesting how we do the intros and outros, but we'll deal with that off camera. But until then, Aunt Yatco on the Points of Experience podcast, everybody. Anne! Hello!
Yay! Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you.
So we've already gone over before this how amazing your headset is, but I also always love your glasses too. Do you also get compliments on those all the time?
I do get compliments on them all the time. And these are like, I got these before the pandemic, so I'm just like riding them out forever because I love them.
I'm the person, so I have a love for glasses because I'm supposed to wear them, but I never do. But as I'm getting older, I'm experiencing more and more of situations where I'm like, I can't really see that. Like if I'm driving or if I'm at the movies or if someone's like, you see, I'm like, I can't really read that. So I need to actually purchase a pair of glasses that I like and I can wear every day that I feel represent me.
Nice.
In
this brand is called Jins. They're based out of Japan, but they have a store. They have an online store and they have a storefront in LA. It's in the that Sherman Oaks Westfield Mall, the one that's on Riverside. Yeah.
I will have to look into that because I need to start wearing them or I'm going to like – and I can't do contacts. I can't – like if someone touches my eye, I scream and I cry and my eyes will not – they just won't stay open no matter what I do. Like I can't – even if people try to like do this, they'll just keep doing that. So it's a big battle. Do you have that or contacts are second nature now?
I used to wear contacts every day until the pandemic. So like glasses were always secondary for me until the pandemic. And I was like, why would I wear contacts when I could just wear these?
Right.
Yeah.
So since the pandemic happened, have you found comfort in being home? A lot of people have found, recording from home, auditioning from home, that to be like, yeah, this is me in my element. Or do you miss the kind of social driving to places, going into studios? Do you miss doing that more often than staying home?
What's funny is that I started to book more stuff once the pandemic hit.
Yeah,
like I started working more than ever once the pandemic hit. And so like it was just like a whole new world while I was stuck at home. But I am loving this like hybrid life where I sometimes go into the studio and get that human contact, but I also have the luxury of being able to be at home and like in my pajamas.
Right? It's really good when they give you the option, too. Where they're like, yeah, you can record you from home or come into the studio. And you're like, well, where is the studio? And
exactly.
How long is it going to be sitting in traffic versus me, just recording from here and saving the extra 2 hours of, to Santa Monica and back. I don't know where you are. But
I live in the Valley. Yeah.
Oh, so do I. So,
same.
It's a trek. So, I mean, it's first of all, thank you for coming on and doing this show.
Of course.
I've known about you, obviously, through social media, and then we've gotten to meet in person at conventions and then at various hangouts. And one thing I've always loved about you is, like, even though we don't really know each other that well, I can sense how bright and positive of your energy is, and it is magnetic, and I really feel that about you as a person. I really gravitate towards people where, the world could be burning around us, and people are still kind of like trying to find the positivity and the silver lining of things, or how do we like make the best out of this? And I feel like you're that type of person. Is that like, am I accurate in that assumption, or are you like, no, let it burn, let it burn? How do you? Is that the kind of person you try to be, or you think you are?
I try to be that person, but I find like, and so that's what I'm trying to put out. But in your heart of hearts, when stuff's going down, it is so easy to just, wallow in it. But I try to keep all that stuff at home.
Yeah.
My husband hears all that stuff.
Great partners can do the kind of like the middle ground service before you have to interact with the public.
Absolutely.
It's like they take the brunt of the whatever you're going with. And I feel I'm very similar that way. I think I try to put out as much positivity as I can, but we're human beings, and social media is great, and it's great for sharing positivity, but we go through things too. We get upset when people call us names and whatever else. It's a real thing. It's not just like as much as I've even perceived from you, it's all yes, positive, great, we're happy. It can be tough out here sometimes. It can be tough.
Absolutely. I get the same kind of energy from you. And it's funny because you talk about social media, and we have to like ride this fine line when you start hitting a certain level of, I suppose, like notoriety or like notability, of like putting out a face that is easily digestible, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
When sometimes you want to write the spicy stuff. And, you know, it's, there's a lot of times I write stuff and leave it in my drafts and then let it just sit there. And then I feel like I've gotten it out of my system.
It's like another form of journaling in a way. It's like, I really want to let people know about this, but you take a moment to kind of reflect and say, is this really worth kind of creating a soapbox over? At least the way I view it is like, is it really worth me, you know, calling out the person who cut me in you know, as on my drive home? Like, is it I try to do that. And obviously bigger picture stuff too, but it's hard to kind of feel like you can fight every fight and also kind of stay someone who I don't want to say is the right word is not problematic, but for people to perceive you as being someone who is constantly stirring up controversy, let's say, for lack of a better example, you know, and that's not always the case. I know this is a very extreme example I'm saying, but you know, there's definitely things where I'm like, gosh, this really stinks, or, you know, I want to be a part of something and I try to do it as much as possible, but I also try to like be an actor and provide entertainment and make people smile and not be the person who's showing, you know, the world burning. I want to be the bright light.
It's like it's a weird push-pull, because it's like, you know, you get people who say, you're an actor, stay in your lane. But at the same time, there are some things you have to say. You have to say something. Yeah. And you got to pick your battles a little bit is the hard thing, because you can't say it all. I mean, you can say it all the time if you want to. Like, it is, people do that. But I find that the internet is not it's not always the friendliest place. And so I have to choose my battles for my own sanity.
Yes. And I think that's smart, and I think it's healthy. And that whole thing of like, you're an actor, stay in your lane, I never really got that, because it's like, there's people who have every single different type of profession you can have, but all of a sudden when you're like an artist or an athlete, people are like, no, you have to just stay there and make me laugh or make me smile. It's like, what about like people who don't have these jobs that also have very big opinions and find themselves as advocates?
Exactly.
Or, you know, it's like, why?
Because this dude, Joe Schmo, who's telling me to shut up, why can't he just shut up? Who are you? Why do you get to have an opinion, but I don't?
Exactly. It's ludicrous, and hopefully that, like, I just hate that conversation.
I know,
anyway,
it's so dumb.
on to brighter things here, as we can say. I want to get to know more about you. Obviously, I've read up as much as I can about you, but I think your story is very interesting, and I think it's very similar to mine in a certain way, because I know you didn't initially set out to kind of like take the educational route of acting, and then you found your way back here. Totally. So I would love my listeners and our listeners to kind of, because we like to share as much as what we've gone through or our guests have gone through, for someone to say like, yeah, great, that's exactly what's going on in my life, or like I can take that piece and follow that path and maybe it'll lead me to a similar place. Where did your kind of journey start, where you were like, acting is becoming a part of my life, whether that's through high school theater, you know, doing plays, or, you know, singing in your bathroom? Where did that bug start for you as a kid, where you're like, performing is in me somewhere?
Okay, so it's two things. So so I'm Filipino, and I don't know if you know a lot of Filipinos, but culturally, we love karaoke and we love performing. And it's usually like a thing you just perform for each other. But also, Filipinos have a lot of like aspiration for like that kind of like energy, you know, performer energy. And so karaoke was a huge part of my life growing up. That's one, right? So performing was always there. And then secondly, when I first saw The Little Mermaid, I was like 6 years old, and I was like, this is it. And I joke that I used to say I want to be a mermaid, but but really what I wanted to be, at first my music was my first love, and so I wanted to be the singing voice of The Little Mermaid. I loved her singing voice. I thought Jodie Benson is an amazing actress, and she was fantastic as Ariel. and it like just captured my attention. I was captivated by her. And like in all those Disney movies from like that golden age, if you will, from like,
Sure.
I don't know, it's what Little Mermaid through, I don't even know what the ending point of that is. But the other like high points for me were like Mulan, you know?
Yeah.
And like Lea Salonga. So having people like that, artists like that, who I was like, oh, they are so cool. They can do this thing. I wish I could do that. And then that kind of got shelved away for a while because, you know, school was important. Getting a good education is important. It is important. Please get a good education. But I was doing well in school. And when I was in high school, I was a member of like a million clubs, right? And I was in the choir. I was in drama club. I did like school musicals every year. And I got to be the lead in my school musical my senior year. And I thought, this is so cool. I'm gonna go be a doctor. Because that's what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. I know the story all too well. Yes.
Yeah.
Similarly, yeah.
Totally. You know, like for a second, I thought I wanted to go to music school to study vocal performance. But then I didn't want to go to a conservatory program that might cut me after a year or two. Like that wasn't attractive to me when I know I can get a good 4-year degree. This is the really practical part of me. I can get a good 4-year degree in biomedical engineering and then become a doctor. So that was my plan.
Where did that love for biomedical engineering come from? Or was that just kind of like you knew someone who did that or you read about it in a book? Like where did that become the selection in junior or senior year of high school? Like, yeah, that's what I'm going to go for.
You know what it is? And this is kind of embarrassing to admit, but it was CSI. I loved watching CSI, and I loved the idea that like you could that was a job. And then I was like looking up online, like, okay, what kind of like degrees could lead to a job on CSI? And like biomedical engineering showed up, and I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. And then like, you know, figuring out like how to create things that work with the body and using the same kinds of principles of, you know, investigation to do that. So that became my choice. And also I was pre-med, so.
Yeah, that's what I did college for too, as I went for pre-med, and then I quickly found my way out of it while in college still, thankfully for myself. But
I stuck it out all the way through.
Oh, that's insane. What was the most fun thing or the most interesting thing you learned studying that?
So like for biomedical engineering, like my senior year, we had to do like a project, and my senior year project, that I was a part of, we were working on like, a device that would help with, like physical therapy for people with knee injuries. So it was about like creating a device that could like actuate and help, a person's like knee joint, move to kind of help them through their therapy. Cause like a lot of physical therapy is about learning how to use that joint again and using it properly. And so if you had this machine, it could basically kind of like guide you through it. I don't even remember how far we got into the research and development of it, because at that point I was already like way into the theater program at Marquette, and I had already been accepted into grad school.
So okay, so you're studying you went to Marquette for biomedical engineering?
Biomedical engineering, yeah.
So while you were there, at what point did you say, I'm going to sneak into the theater department and start doing their plays? When did you make that decision?
My first day on campus. It was freshman orientation. I was like, I'll just like go check out what they're doing at the theater. Like maybe like I can go see a play. Maybe they have like, you know, like some side production I could like maybe audition for someday. I don't know, get to know people. And I'm like just like wandering around looking at what's up, and like this senior comes up to me and he's like, hey, I need two girls to like be basically extras at the end of his senior thesis. He was doing Oedipus Rex. And so he needed two young-ish looking girls to play Antigone and Ismene to come and cry on Oedipus's lap right before he leaves for exile. And so I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, we just were rehearsing like super late at night because we have to do it after all the other rehearsals. Are you interested? And I was like, can I do my homework in the green room when you don't need me? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, great, cool. So I would bring like my calculus homework and like do my calculus homework at like 11 o'clock at night, waiting for my one scene at the very end of the play.
Oh my gosh. So So you were doing all the plays. You said, I'm going to, hang out, do the theater clubs, all that stuff in college. And where, because now I'm assuming you went to grad school for theater or acting or drama, something like that?
Yeah.
So where along that journey from freshman year to senior year did you be like, okay, biomedical engineering, that was fun, but I'm going to do this and apply to grad school to perform?
That was a conversation I had with my acting mentor my senior year. So like from freshman year to senior year, like I kind of decided I was just going to start taking all the classes. And by the end, I essentially majored in theater, but because the School of Engineering and the School of Communications have very different prerequisites, there was no way for me to fully complete a second major.
To technically get the degree, but you took the classes. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And my acting mentor, Phyllis Ravel, God rest her soul, she like sat me down at the beginning of my senior year and she's like, I really think you should audition for grad school. And I was like, I thought this year was the year I needed to sign up for the MCATs. And she was like, you know what? Just audition. Just try it. Just try it. Okay. And I was like, okay. So like did you ever hear of the URDAs?
Oh, yeah, sure. My fiance did them, in New York.
Yeah, so I did the URDAs in Chicago, the University/Resident Theater Association.
Yeah, essentially. Go ahead. You can explain better than I can, because I didn't do it.
So for people who don't know, the URDAs is this association of like universities and resident theaters. So like summer stock, like regional theaters, that kind of stuff. So you had like 20 or 30 different representatives coming to one location to hold a set of auditions. And so all I had to do was prepare 2 monologues, and I would perform it for like, let's say it was 30, for 30 people. And then they would all like scritch in their little notebooks and then decide whether they wanted to interview me or not. And if nobody wanted to interview me, I could go right back home to Milwaukee. But I did get a few interviews, and I was able to do like 2 of them before I had to jump back in a car to head back to school to rehearse Tartuffe. And my very first interview. Yeah, right? I was Doreen. Thank you very much.
I love that play.
It's so good.
I know.
But my first interview was with the California Institute of the Arts, and I loved working with Marissa Chibas, who ended up being my first year acting teacher. I just liked the approach to it. It felt really like organic and kind of almost kinesthetic in her approach, the way she like guided me through like working on my monologue. And I liked the idea of going to a school where I would learn, or I would be immersed in more experimental theater, because it was vastly different from anything I had ever like done in my 4 years at Marquette.
What were you kind of studying? Was there a certain style of acting, or were there just like, was it a general kind of acting, theater, drama education at Marquette? Like when you were taking those classes?
It was a general acting program. I'd say it was based mostly like in Stanislavski.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, mostly Stanislavski, and a little bit of other stuff like peppered in. And Cal Arts was even more like bringing in different sources. Grotowski. I mean, there was some Meisner in there, but not like, we didn't focus on it at all. But
that's
so,
my
like,
background. So
see, yeah. I loved. I loved working with Marissa, and I thought, this is cool. And then they offered me a spot. And so after I graduated with a degree in biomedical engineering, because I had to finish that for my parents, I drove out. They helped me drive out to California to do grad school, and they were so concerned for me. They were like, what are you doing? Why are you putting yourself more into debt? What are you doing? And I said, it's going to be fine.
At that point, what was kind of what you were telling your parents? Were you saying, I'm going to pursue a career in theater and I'm going to be on Broadway? What was you were going to be the next Little Mermaid? What was the kind of the explanation of what your goal was?
That's what I wanted. What I really told my parents was, I want to learn. I'm going to go try this out, but I have this degree and I can always fall back on it. And I will probably fall back on it. And if it doesn't work out, I can always go to med school. I just kept promising that to my parents. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. promised you a lot of stuff. But they let me. I don't know if it's just I spoke with enough confidence, or maybe deep down, like, they knew I had something going on that maybe, who knows? I mean, my mom and dad still asked me for many years afterward when I was going to finally go to med school.
Like,
that stopped
like recently?
Oh, no. That stopped like probably like 5-ish years ago.
Okay. It's like, hey, I know you're doing all this great stuff, you know, acting, but like, you still want to go and just kind of just get that paper for us, get that doctor, so you can put that in front of you.
That MD title is so great.
Oh gosh, yeah. Bless their hearts, I'm sure. Yes.
And they're happy for me. They understand what I'm doing now, so it's cool.
Were they big into the arts? Did they also like doing karaoke? Are they performers? Was that where you found that?
My dad loves karaoke, so I'm pretty sure I get most of my performer, like, genetics from my dad's side.
Sure.
My mom's a lot, like, quieter. She's more of a homebody, but I get stuff from her too. Don't worry.
The biomedical engineering and the performer on Broadway all at the same time. That's where that that mixes. Okay, so I interrupted you. So you're driving to Cal Arts now at this point, and you're excited to study. Kind of. I'm sorry. What was the name of your mentor or professor there? That was.
Marissa.
Marissa, yes.
Marissa Chibas, yeah.
So you're going there to study that, and you're doing now this grad degree. How long is the grad degree, and what is kind of some of the stuff besides, you know, you're doing the experimental, studying the different, you know, what were like the big takeaways that you learned from grad school, and how long was that? Yeah,
so the MFA acting program there is 3 years. And so, you know, my days were filled with, you know, there was a scene study class, a movement class, speech class, voice class, movement class, any number of electives. Like, I took voice lessons, did some singing classes while I was there, took an extra dance class, because why not? There was a puppetry program, so like I got to know puppeteers who I've worked with since and are wonderful. And I got to work with some of the film school students while I was there. Like, there was room to try to reach out to other schools if you had the initiative. So it wasn't baked in, and you kind of had to search it out for yourself. But like, I did, like, my first unofficial voiceover role was doing like a voice for like a Baba Yaga short that I think never got finished.
Fun.
Yeah, but that was fun. But I got to do a lot of different things while I was at Cal Arts, and then more importantly, like, I made some of my best friends there, and like, we still have our little community out here in LA that we rely on, like, constantly. They're wonderful.
I think that's something that people, especially those right now where it's very easy to not pursue a college education. You can go and take classes. It can be a lot cheaper. You know, you can do the community college route. You can take the dedicated classes that you want to. But as someone who also did, I did 5.5 years of college because I did my undergrad at a school in Jersey, and then I transferred to NYU, and I had to do 2.5 there to finish a degree. Got it. After losing a bunch of credits. But the thing I did take away most from that was, while it's not the most kind of you get to live and you get to meet people and you get to experience what it's like to see different cultures, see different, you know, ways of thinking, and not be out and be outside of that little bubble that you might be in before you decide to go and move out on your own, whether that's, you know, LA or wherever it is. So the community that I made, they're still great friends, and I get to see people who are doing amazing things as performers that come out of that school. And that's the thing I take away from university, and I find is so great. If it's something that you like, and you like the curriculum, you like the people who are teaching the classes, you vetted everything about it before kind of just being like, all right, I got to do this because I have to go get a degree, then I think it's really beneficial if you can afford it, and it's a calculated kind of endeavor. So I love that. It sounds like you really enjoyed not only undergrad but grad school as well. Yeah. And to your point, like, yeah, my friends that I have from undergrad still, like, you know, we still talk. My best friend, like, we keep in touch all the time. I met her on that play that I was telling you about. She was Ismene. Oh my God. I was Ismene and she was Antigone. Yeah. You don't even know at this point. Just someone was somebody and someone was something.
Exactly. But yeah.
So you're in grad school. You're doing the 3 years, you said, is the program? It's 3 years. So how soon after graduating are you kind of planning, or even during school, are you auditioning for stuff already? Are you planning out like what the career is going to be, how you're going to enter the professional world? Were you, while in school, looking at like Backstage or Actors Access? Like, what was the plan in terms of making the pursuit of a degree into a career at that point?
Totally. Not great. I did a really poor job of it. The thing, and this is the thing about acting school, and whether you're going to a multi-year program or if you're like cobbling together your education from different classes, the thing nobody teaches you is how to build a career. And it is the hardest thing to learn. And I think the reason why nobody teaches it is because it's kind of a personalized experience. And that's hard to swallow. Yeah. So coming out of CalArts, like I did my showcase in LA and New York, and I really thought for a while that I wanted to move to New York and pursue like, you know, stage, Broadway, musicals, all that stuff. And then I didn't get like a great response out of New York. Mm-hmm. I didn't get the best response out of LA either, but I already lived in LA. Sure. And I had like my first job lined up out of LA. So I was like, I might as well just stay here. So after I graduated from CalArts, I got my equity card on my first job because through CalArts, they were casting a handful of women to be part of a joint production with UCLA. And it was through UCLA Live, which was their like producing arm for like, it was a producing arm for like outside shows. Mm-hmm. And this was their first in-house show. Okay. They did a production of Medea that starred Annette Bening. Oh. And I got to be in the Greek chorus. And that was amazing. It was like a really cool, like quick 2-month process. We were working with this amazing director from Croatia. It was all very like, it felt very like, oh, okay, I'm in my element because like she directs like the way CalArts is. Like this is a great way to like move into like professional acting. And then I couldn't book anything else for the rest of the year.
Wow. So can you extrapolate on that? So you have this first job lined up, which is amazing. I mean, to get a job out of school is pretty crazy, and to be in equity production at that and to get your card is extremely kind of shocking and congratulatory. I mean, you probably felt on top of the world being like, yeah,
I did.
My cards are set. Next is Broadway or whatever the equivalent is. So
and no.
Well, as is the case for most people, as is the case for me, I was able to get a little bit of work, and then you wind up having, you know, a year, 2 years where you're not working, whatever it might be, and you're forced to kind of figure out what it is you're going to do to survive. So what became that? What was that year like for you then, where you come off the high of this play and now you don't have a job? What was that year like before you wind up getting that next job or made that next plan to book more work?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just a couple of months from the end of that play until like my student loans were going to kick in. Mm-hmm. So that was a couple of months of me writing these nice paychecks from Medea, trying to find, I wanted to just find like part-time work. Yeah. But like no Target, no restaurants, no one would hire me because I didn't have any retail experience or like restaurant experience because I only worked in the costume shops at my schools. I was a tutor during my summer. I was a tutor like not even during during the school years. So I could tutor. That was an option for me, but that only gets you so far.
You could have did Spirit Halloween for the months of October and November.
That is true. And I used to lifeguard. Over the summers, but like that's kind of hard on you because in LA, like there are companies that do will hire out lifeguards and swim teachers, but it's a lot of you drive to people's houses or community pools to go teach them. And those were I have some interesting stories from that. But I realized like I needed to like come up with something to start paying off like a $100,000 degree. Mm-hmm. And I decided to rely on my undergraduate degree. And I found, no lie, on Craigslist, a listing for a job as a forensic scientist. And I was like, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? Wait.
You have to expand on this because I am not believing you.
I know. It seems like crazy, right? Because I told you, like, the whole reason for biomedical engineering was CSI, and I was like, no way. So
this is like a plot of CSI right now. Hire someone to be a forensic scientist off Craigslist, and
oh my god,
yeah,
I could be dead right now. It turned out to be legitimate, and I worked as a forensic scientist for 7.5 years. So what I did, though, it wasn't CSI. What I was an accident reconstructionist. So when people get into car accidents, for example, and say you rear end someone and you exchange your insurance information, all that goes through, you're found to be at fault. Okay, sure. Maybe a couple months goes down the line and your insurance calls and says, you know what? That lady you rear-ended, she says she's got some back pains. She's going to go to the chiropractor, and usually their insurance will cover, your insurance would cover one round of chiropractic treatment, to just kind of work the kinks out. And then maybe a couple months goes by and she needs another one. And it's okay, well, now they need to evaluate, okay, does she really need it? And then a couple months goes down and she has seen more doctors and now she has to get back surgery. Now we're getting into a lot of money. And so usually, probably before this point, both sides, both insurance companies have connected with lawyers who then represent you and this lady, and now you're headed toward a lawsuit. And if you are headed toward a lawsuit, you might employ a expert witness. That's what it was. An expert witness to look at the information from the accident. Pictures, police reports, medical records, interviews, all that stuff. To try to figure out, how did the accident happen? What kind of forces were in play? What's the science going on? Basically, literally reconstructing it. So car A hits car B going at this speed, at this angle, and the cars are expected to kind of do something like this. Yeah. And then in this sort of accident, the body is expected to do something like this. And that may or may not be connected to these injuries that are listed in all the medical records.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what you see is that people have a lot of pre-existing conditions that kind of contribute to this constellation of symptoms that now require back surgery. And so this is a lot of mincing hairs about how much are you really responsible for that?
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting job. For me, a little tedious. I wrote more in that 7.5 years than I did through all of the rest of my life.
Wow.
And I was this expert witness's assistant, one of his assistants, doing that. So we worked on a lot of auto accident cases, premises liability. So that's trip and fall, slip and fall, fall down the stairs, that kind of stuff.
Interesting. That's so fascinating. I mean, I have so many questions, but I'm curious, did any of that wind up where along that lines were you still auditioning, or did you have these passions to get back? Oh, so you never stopped. There you go.
I never stopped. So I was mostly doing theater this whole time, right? But I also, through theater, managed to find out about classes with Richard Tatum. He's another great actor. And I took an animation class with him, and then I ended up studying commercial copy with him, and then he ended up cutting my demo. And that was 9 years ago. And then, around that time I started really auditioning for stuff, and I booked my first video game around that time, I think. I already can't remember.
Wow.
But it was an online MMORPG from Korea. And it was cool. And they
Which
would bring
one?
me...
Because I play a lot of MMOs. Let me
sure.
See if I can...
I was a small character in Dungeon Fighter Online, and then I was this character in what is it called? Oh no, it's
Lineage. Silk Road. No.
It started with a V. Did it start with a V? Wait, where's my IMDb page? Shoot, wait,
Joe,
quick.
Find it.
Ah!
Joe's on it. Joe's on it. He'll find it. And so you never stopped. You're doing a bunch of theater while and you're taking these classes while you're doing it. Where did the connection light bulb moment go? I want to explore voiceover happen though, because you're doing a lot of. It's a very different. I mean, while a lot of the principles are the same, it seems like you took a very conscious effort to say, I'm going to take an animation course or voiceover course. Where did that conversation happen for you?
Totally. Heading back to CalArts, my third year, my speech teacher, Denise Woods, she's a voice actress, and she's actually also a dialect coach, like a really well-known dialect coach. But she kind of like was giving us sort of like an informal class on voiceover, mostly commercial copy. And so like that was my first like dipping my toes into like what being a voiceover actor might entail. And I was like, that's cool. And then I kind of like put that aside for a little bit. And then when my friend told me about Richard's classes, I was like, oh, yeah, I want to try that. That's something I've always been interested in. And
what do we got here? Joe. It might not be in the correct sharing.
Vindictus. Oh my God, it came to me. Vindictus. That's okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. It's all right. It's Vindictus. I played this character called Teve, and like they would keep bringing me back in every once in a while for more content, right? Like that's with like these ongoing games, like that tends to happen. Yeah. Thank you for pulling it up, though. No, you're great. I might need that again later because my memory is
gosh
bad.
So you were saying your friend wound up bringing up this class to you, and that's where you. Did you know about voiceover though before all of this, or was it all kind of like a new world for you? I mean, gosh, did I just make a cheesy pun from Ariel again? Gosh.
No,
anyway.
That's Aladdin. You're fine.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yes. Okay, good. We're good.
We're good. Phew.
No, we're good. Okay, so you knew about voiceover.
I knew about voiceover. Like I was familiar with like the biggest names, you know, like your Bob Bergens, your Maurice LaMarches. I knew because I really liked that like span of Disney movies, like who at the time, I think I've forgotten some, who voiced who in like those Disney movies, you know. So, and that's how I knew like Lea Salonga was like all over that, and she's my favorite. So like I knew I had this knowledge of like voiceover as a thing, but it never really clicked that Anne, could do that for my career until around this time when I was taking the class and I realized, oh no, I really do have a knack for it, and more importantly, like I really like doing it. Yeah, which is even more important because voiceover it requires so much patience and hard work and just being in it for a while and getting to know the people who are doing the casting, getting them to know you and refining the skills that are needed, because while it is acting, and you probably experience what I experience is, you know, you can bring a lot of what you learn from the theater and you could bring a lot of what you learn from TV and film, but there are certain things that are required. I mean, outside of the technical stuff, like what is an OMS? I mean, for anime, you know, there's a bunch of certain things that make, you know, that stuff, but just even how you approach it as a performer, it takes a little bit of an adjustment. And it's like, it's a difference between playing like baseball and cricket. You know, you're hitting a ball with a stick in both of them, but it's very different in terms of how you probably approach that game. Rugby and football, there's just different strategies, even though it's very similar. So absolutely, you wind up having a knack for this really quickly, and obviously being a singer, I think you probably had a very good understanding of your voice. Yeah. So how do you feel that it was a strength for you being a singer? What did you feel that was more easy or easy to learn as someone who used their voice a lot? It was, for me, like, it's an understanding for, like, when people ask for, you know, voice ranges, like understanding the limits of my voice and understanding how to stretch that's part of it. And then once I got into dubbing, and we can talk about that, once I got into dubbing, and I like quickly, I feel like I pretty quickly understood how it worked because of being able to hear musically and being able to hear timing wise what I needed to do to then to be able to, like, you know, process it and recreate that in my own way.
And I have a very similar feeling too when you hear that musicality, and we've had guests here talk about this a bunch of times. I mean, I'm still someone who takes classes, and it's constantly. I took a class with Tony Oliver because I just want to, like, constantly keep training. Great. I don't care how successful I get. I'm going to constantly keep trying to learn, and I think that's an important thing for people to understand. And he talks about the musicality all the time of things. I was like, the main thing he talked about is that musicality of acting. And I think that's, if you train in the theater and if you learn Shakespeare or even some of the Greek plays, whatever it might be, you wind up trusting the music of the text, of good written text, and that will oftentimes take you on the journey that you need to go to on your as a character, more so than you squeezing the emotion out of yourself or whatever it might be. Is fully committing to the music of it. So when you're pursuing this voiceover, did you have an agent at this time, or did people just know who you were?
I started to get to know people. So from those like first couple of video games, this is the chain. So then they kept bringing me back in, usually to the same studio in Santa Monica. And then eventually they started popping around different other studios. And then like I worked at a couple of different studios here and there. And then when I finally like did one session over at Spliced Bread, which is at SDI, down on the west side.
Bob Buckles,
Bob Buckles. I got to know him. I guess he liked what I did because then he put me on his like casting list, and then I would start getting auditions from him. And I booked a show. I booked an animated series. It was like a Zorro animated series back in I don't know what that was 2013, 2014. I have no idea what time is anymore. I did that, and then after that, he started just putting me on, like, small roles for dubbing. So I did, like, a small role in the movie called Blame. I did a small role in, I did, like, a minor role in, was it ID Zero? It's, like, some, like, smaller animes and a lot of live action. I mostly cut my teeth doing live action dubbing. And I think live action dubbing is harder.
Very much so, I think, because you're tasked with replicating this kind of on-camera performance with everything taken away from you that helps create that on-camera performance. Yeah. So
and everything is more visible. Like all like the mouth flaps. Like they're more there. You can really see when it doesn't match up. And you know, sometimes it's an impossible task.
Yeah. And I mean, I just was doing a show which is a live-action dub, and I learn more about myself as a performer every time I do it, and I think that's one of the beauties about getting in with these casting officers or these directors who know you, and they kind of let you graduate to different levels, from doing smaller roles or walla to smaller roles to a guest star role to a main role, because you can kind of figure out what certain tools you need or skill sets you need to rely on to kind of make those things work. Because voiceover, it's also got tons of genres: audiobooks, narration, commercial, promo, anime, animation, and then there's also where is it originating from in the different styles and tones: comedy, drama, farce. I think people, especially when a lot of people who I know who are interested in pursuing voiceover, they see it as like, I want to act in anime or I want to act in video games, and that's great. But within that, there is such a big picture world of acting, and I find the most talented people, such as yourself, you have an understanding of what it's like to express yourself as a performer all around. And even I was watching your anime reel the other day, and every single one of your characters has a different life. There is a different whole three-dimensional breathing person, even in voiceover, which I find can be a place where a lot of performances seem like, obviously, voice print aside, even if they sound the same, the character can kind of seem similar to other characters for certain people. Yours all seem like a completely different person is playing these characters.
Thank you.
And that's the thing I found most impressive, is it seems like a completely different person is behind the microphone. Is that something you have? Do you have a conscious understanding of that, or is that in the process of how you craft character? How do you feel that is translating to someone like me listening?
Sure,
or watching.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's incredibly flattering. I think it's because I think it comes down to, like, whenever I approach a character, even if it's very similar, even if like this little boy is a very similar energy to that little boy, this little boy is talking to someone completely different under completely different circumstances and has different wants and needs, and so I have to like honor what that is. So they might have the same rasps, they might be in the same range, but they'll be two different boys because they're literally different people. And so thank you. It's not a thing I am super conscious of when I walk in, but I think that's just because I'm relying on the training that I've had over the years to carry me through. Yeah.
Do you have any sort of, so for lack of a better example, to kind of get in your shoes for a second, you get an audition for something. Do you have a certain process that you go through? Like, what is it from the second that audition reaches your inbox to the second you send it in? What are the things that you're doing, or how are you preparing for that?
Okay. Usually, if I see it, I'll like open it up. I'll read through it, read through the sides, like even just out loud, like kind of give my first pass on it, get a feel for like what that is. And I'll kind of just digest the character bio, all that stuff, make some quick choices in my brain, and then I'll like put it away for a while. I always like read it and then put it away for a while. And then I'll come back to it in the booth like later that day or the next day, depending on how long I have with it. And then I'll see like what has my body digested since I last looked at this. You know, depending on where I am, like sometimes I feel like I want to get real crunchy with it and I'll like mark stuff out, but usually I don't anymore. And I kind of just like trust the process, if you will. That's so gross to say, but it's true.
It is.
It's true. I trust the training that I've had. And then I do a couple of passes, see what's working, and then if I need to, you know, and if I can cut together something from that, great. If I need to do another pass or just come in for some like one specific line because it didn't feel like it connected to everything, I'll do that. It's for me, I really believe in like letting the body kind of marinate.
Yeah, I think that's a great practice, and I do the same thing too. I try to read my sides, especially for things on camera. I try to read everything and try and memorize as much as possible the night before, and then when I go to sleep, I feel like I wake up with a whole different understanding of it in my body. I feel like I'm working in my sleep. I put my... What's the show? What is that show? Not Succession. It is Severance, where you kind of partition your brain to do your work for you, and then once you leave work, you're back to yourself. I feel like I do that with my acting when I'm going to sleep. I send my Severance self to do my acting work.
To do the work.
Yeah, and because it really does work sleeping on lines. And I don't think I've ever said that on here. Is I truly, for me, and a lot of other voice actors don't do this, and I found this happen. I put the two and two together in a very real way. I had a motion capture audition recently, and it was a lot of material. It was a lot of material, and they want you to be off book. And they want you to, it was more than one character I had to do. And I had to memorize this stuff. And voice actors, I think we get very comfortable not having to memorize lines. But I often do memorize them. So when I have this opportunity come, in addition to a bunch of other stuff I had to do, I was like, okay, this is already, I know how to do this. I can put my best foot forward on this mocap thing. Because that's a whole other side of VO that I think people don't expect to have the opportunity to work in. But voiceover agents are getting those just as much. So sleeping on it, letting that marinate for me, I needed those days to do it, and then eventually recording.
Totally.
I wanted to ask, so you go through it, you trust the process stuff. What about for characters though? Because when you're dubbing, or even in original animation, sometimes you're getting references, or you're hearing the person who did it in Japanese or Chinese or Korean, whatever it might be, if it's a video game or an anime, and you're getting a lot of inspiration from that. Do you also have a way that you are are you crafting characters as you read the specs and like all of that's being digested and you're creating the character there, or do you kind of say, oh, that reminds me of this person I saw walking down the street, or reminds me of my uncle? What is your character creation process? Because like I said, I see such a unique print on every character you play. They just feel very real, and that might just be you taking what you see in the original, or that might be you doing that. Like, do you have an understanding of how you're creating your characters?
Yeah, usually it's, if there is an image, like that is always like the best, right? It gives you the most information. It usually gives you some of the most information. And the character bio is always great. And if they ever have like references, like those really help help me go through my mental Rolodex of textures, qualities, you know, all those things that live inside my voice prints, and how can I combine them to create this thing? Yeah. And then if they give you a reference, like if you're dubbing, for example, or if it's a game or a show from another language, you might have a voice that you can base yours off of. So, you know, kind of to at least then kind of give you a jumping off point for, okay, we're looking for, where in like, you know, tonal range are we looking for texture, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that's the basics of it. Like, you know, just taking it in, and then I kind of just like start talking and see what works. Yeah. If the first one seems like it's a good one, great. If not, maybe I'll try something different until something just feels this is a good one for the audition. Because no matter what you do, there's so many different ways to answer the question correctly of what does this character sound like.
Yeah.
And so the only question you really have to answer is what's the best way for me to make this character sound like in this moment, and that's all I can do.
So true. And that's why I was curious, because I'm very similar, I think, to I like to digest with the pictures or the written things and see how that inspires me. There's no like, I don't consciously say I'm doing one thing or the other. It just kind of happens like alchemy. But here's a great example. So I'm listening to your character Raiden Shogun in Genshin Impact, the voice lines. I just looked up, voice lines, because I played Genshin Impact for a while, but I didn't play at the point when your character came out. I got pretty far. I was AR 56. I've talked about this for a while.
Really far.
It's pretty impressive. All right. So, but I
AR 58.
Oh, sheesh. Wow. So you're the real deal too. So I'm listening to the video someone made. I guess I don't think it was an official video, but like when you click and you look through the voice lines of each character, right?
Yeah.
And so I just put it on play while I was doing other work. I just wanted to hear your work and just hear the character. And I'm hitting play, and all of a sudden I'm listening. Then there's a line that happens. Well, first of all, your acting is just so amazing. Like I feel like I'm listening to poetry the entire time, like you're reciting these lines. And then all of a sudden a line comes up, and I go, "Oh, did it jump to the next video or something?" I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, why is there another character playing on the voice lines? And then I'm like, what the heck just happened? I'm like, it's on the same video. What's going on here? And I look back, and I still can't figure it out, because I thought maybe it would say like something. And then I'm spending like 20 minutes trying to figure this out. And then I realize you're playing two characters essentially in the character. But again, back to this point of you and the way that you're creating these extremely unique personalities. Truthfully, I'm saying this. I'm like racking my brain. I'm like, why? What the heck is going on here? And I start reading. I'm like, where does it say it's two characters? I don't believe this. I'm like, where? It doesn't say it anywhere. I'm looking it up. I don't see, I type in Raiden Shogun all over, and I'm like, and I start reading more about it. I think that's only a testament to how good you are, and for the reason you probably booked this character, because it takes a very specific actor and someone who understands the uniqueness and dedication to each character for I'm assuming casting to be like, okay, great. They showed this in a very unique way, but they also showed this in a very unique way, and there's something that's kind of similar, but extremely different at the same time.
Thank you.
I know it's a very long-winded compliment here, but
thank you. I appreciate it.
Very much so. And what was that experience like for you, getting that audition and kind of seeing those two different personalities and being like, these are kind of the same person? Not really. It's maybe you could explain it better than I can, how each one of those characters lives and where you kind of found the life for each one of them.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So I got the audition, and when I got the audition for several characters.
Sure.
So she was one of several characters that I put auditions out for. But with her, they were all like codenamed or whatever. And so I understood that this was a character who almost lived inside another character, and they were the same but different. There's this saying that my husband told me I think it's from like Cambodia. It's same but different. And I was like, oh yeah, they're same but different. And I liked the idea that the person inside was much more alive and warmer, but still a leader, still a ruler. And then that the person that's on the outside is very much the ruler, and is the thing they kept harping on when we were recording was that the Shogun is not a robot. The Shogun is a puppet. So I had to ride this line of being not quite the same person, but also not being a non-person.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
And that's such a tricky line, I feel like, right?
It is. It's a really tricky line to ride. And especially in the beginning, because, I think the character kind of evolved a little bit from my first set of recording sessions for 2.0 and 2.1, and then my recording sessions for 2.5. Because there's time that passes after, the Archon quest is done, and, A, who is like the real Shogun,
Yes.
has like learned a lot of things. So like there's a slight shift, I guess. But initially, what it is just I thought of the puppet as being the most proper and regal and powerful woman that I could think of. And not quite, like, I wasn't doing like a British accent, and I wasn't even quite doing a Mid-Atlantic accent, but Mid-Atlantic was kind of the starting point.
Sure.
For where it went. But she also, the puppet, has feelings. So like she can get mad. She can be confused. She can be a little soft, not very, but a little bit. It's mostly begrudging. And then A, who's inside, is much warmer. She has like a real life about her. And I think the funnest thing about A is that she's actually very naive, because the story is that she put herself away for 500 years after losing everyone very dear to her. And she spent that 500 years trying to come up with a solution to save her country. Leaving this puppet in charge. And that puppet really only knows how to do like one thing.
Yeah. What about where those characters is there something that changes with you physically, or do you take a different stance, or do you like have something that separates those two characters for you when you're doing it? Is it like facially or physically, or is there a different that you have for each of the personalities?
For Shogun, I think it really is just like she's like ramrod straight, right? She is rigid, and I think that's probably like the easiest way for me to like envision her. And then A is a lot more looser. She's more loosey goosey. And that's kind of like where it landed with me when I was recording all that initial stuff. Because when you get to 2.5, like now we're dealing more. It's more dramatic, even more like pathos. So like the two characters are like really like I had to record these scenes where they're all interacting with each other, and then in 2.5 there's even a third version.
Oh my gosh, how fun!
Spoilers.
Though, right? Crazy but fun. I have to imagine.
Yeah, it was so cool. Like Raiden Shogun is, I think, like the most challenging role I've ever played, just because it in the most satisfying way. And I'm very, very lucky to have had the chance to do something like this.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those roles that you'll remember for the rest of your life. I have a feeling it's.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, Genshin as a game is extremely prominent, and for great reasons. And I think it's also so good because they get the best actors to play these parts where it feels like they fit like a glove, and whatever it's very carefully selected, and I think your character has done that. And I'm sure you know, because you play the game too. What has been your experience as a player of the game? What are the things that you enjoy most about playing, or listening to, or reading, or the story, or character combat? Like what is the thing about Genshin for you that you love as a consumer?
As a consumer, like what I love about Genshin is the story. Like, you know, when I first heard about Genshin Impact, because I started playing pretty early on and then stopped for a long time and then picked up after I was cast. So at first, when I first started playing, I was like, oh, this looks like Breath of the Wild, which I had just finished, mostly finished playing. And I was like, okay, I understand this, but it's more anime. I was like, great, Breath of the Wild plus anime, cool. And like, I enjoyed like the battle mechanics, but more importantly, I really enjoyed like getting to know these characters, and like it was like a cool story. And so getting to like see my voice like in this really cool story is just so wild.
It's got to be surreal, and I love the game. I think it's great. I have to find my wallet needs to find a way to get back into it because I want to collect all the Pokemon.
Gotta catch them all.
I know. It's a great game, and I mean, for someone like you, you've worked on such great titles. So which came first? Was it Genshin or was it Jujutsu Kaisen? Which came first?
Jujutsu Kaisen.
So okay, that's another one of those animes for me where I watch a lot of anime, I play a lot of games, and that's, I guess, probably where I first learned about you, was through that role, and it's one of my favorite shows, and it's such an ensemble piece, and everybody is so freaking good, and I think your work as Nobara, it's like, she is so I know I keep talking about character here because that's the thing that stands out so much to me is she's so feisty and has such like I really love kind of the power that she has in all of her conviction, everything she does, and it's again one of my favorite shows. Where does that live for you? Is that something that like is that in Anne when she is playing beach volleyball or what? Yeah, you're a competitor.
Yeah. No, I tell people this all the time because people ask me, what's your favorite character? And I'm like, okay, look, the Raiden Shogun is like the coolest character I've ever gotten to play. But also Nobara is the most like me.
Yeah, okay.
At my core. Like, I think it's because she's very mercurial. And I am very mercurial. My emotions can turn on a dime. And I love that Nobara, as she is written, gets to be so many different things. She is both the badass and she is the goofball. Yeah. She is both the pretty girl and she is the strong girl. And she's everything in between. And so like I'm so again lucky. Wow, to be the English voice of a character so well drawn out, so fully realized from like go. She comes in just raring and ready to go, and she's so in your face about who she is from the top. And I love that about her. And I love how she interacts with the guys because she can dish it out and she has to take it back, you know? And then she comes to love them, and like, you know, she would go to bat for all of them. Absolutely.
And I think like many shonen anime, there's kind of that crew of characters that you follow, like the trio. I mean, if you want to talk about like Naruto, like the team aspect of things. Jujutsu Kaisen, I feel like it has a very different and unique approach while still retaining a lot of the similar elements. But I think what makes it so unique is the way that these characters are very different than anything we've seen before. And especially your character, it's so nuanced, and there's so much. It's not just kind of a stereotype or a one-dimensional like archetype that they're playing for. When you were reading the sides when you got this audition, did you feel like were things just clicking? You're like, oh my gosh, this is so like me. Did you resonate immediately when you first started reading for it?
I did, because the audition sides was the episode that she's introduced in. It's her like little interior monologue when she first meets Yuji and Megumi, where she's like, oh, these two are dumb. And I was like, oh, I get that. I understand that 100%. And then I was able to watch the dub because they had episode 3 out by that time when the auditions were out. So I watched the episode and I was like, oh, I 100% understand who that is in that moment. And I loved that, when I was trying to think about like who she is, I was trying to draw like parallels. And I was like, she's kind of like a Hermione, but she's also like way grungier than that.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. And it's crazy because I think if somebody was trying to create a character that was like that, I think Nobara would be kind of the example rather than like pulling from something else, because it is so very unique in that she, like you're saying, she's quirky, she's the goofball, she's mercurial, she's feisty, she's strong. I feel like it's a character that we're seeing more of, and that's amazing. I think that's great that we're seeing more female characters that have like that aren't kind of I don't want to use this as a bad example, but like, what happened like with Sakura in like Naruto, you know what I mean? So like we're seeing more of these female characters that are so powerful in their own right, and not being dependent upon the male counterpart characters, and I really enjoy that in the show.
I agree, and I think it's a testament to the writer, to Akutami Sensei, who wants to write female characters who have very specific agency for themselves and not just in relation to who's around them.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that, and I thank him for that every day.
Yeah, and that's and I think what you bring to the role is a big part of it, and why the show is so successful, because obviously you have the Japanese cast and the audience that it's attracting in Japan and throughout the world.
Amazing. Oh my god.
Absolutely amazing. Sure, they are amazing, but I think the reason, it's hard to not say this without it being actually a flat-out compliment, I think because of actors like you and the new set of people who have been kind of peppered throughout the anime community, bringing such grounded, nuanced performances that aren't ridiculously the way traditional anime was done, this kind of new age of anime that we're seeing where it is very grounded and real and sensation, like it's very powerful. And having actors who are committing their entire being and soul uniquely to these characters are making anime way more mainstream and an easy entry point for someone who may have been hesitant prior to getting into it. It's like, okay, this is in a language I can understand, and the dub is great. The actors are great. I'm having a hard time deciding whether or not I want to even choose between dub or sub. You know what I mean? It just becomes like, great actors playing great parts with great writing, great direction, great everything. And I think that's why I enjoy watching dub, is when I see actors who are not just kind of going through the motions. They are, you can feel, you feel the person pouring their soul into every little bit. And I think that you and the rest of the cast too, you guys are such a great ensemble and you complement each other really well, what seems on the show and also in real life, which I'm sure you have a very distinct dynamic in real life too. Is that true? Yeah.
I'm lucky that partly because of the success of the show, I've had a chance to really get to know Adam and Keiji and Robbie and Ray and even like Matt and Allegra, and I've started to get to know Xander a little bit. So like, the kind of like the main core people, and it's so cool to see like how we're alike with our characters and how we're different from our characters, and more importantly, like how we all gel as human beings. It's been really fun.
Oh, that's so cool. and you've been traveling a lot with conventions and stuff too. Have you had a standout kind of trip or convention that you went to that was a really cool place to kind of visit or meet the fans or do a panel? Has there been a moment that stood out for you doing all of this traveling?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Adam and Keiji and I had the chance to do both Crunchyroll Expo in San Jose and Crunchyroll Expo in Australia, and Crunchyroll Expo in San Jose was wild, and like our panel was so fun. Just like there was like some magic happening on stage between the three of us and our interviewer Jackie Jing, who is fantastic. And it was just like the coolest time. And then partly because of that, we got the chance to go to Australia, and all of us, and like my husband and Keiji's wife Marcy, also an amazing voice actor, we got to go just like tool around Melbourne for a couple of days. We went to an animal sanctuary and we touched koalas and fed kangaroos and like pet dingoes. Like it was amazing.
That's
so like
so cool.
I'm blessed, so blessed because of getting to do the work of Jujutsu Kaisen. I've had to have these amazing experiences that I could not have had otherwise. It's crazy.
I can only imagine. I mean, I would think I would melt if I got to pet and feed a kangaroo. I think that would be a very life-changing experience for me.
They're very big and they're very sturdy.
Yeah.
Yo, like I was like, you could pummel me really easily.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they are pretty strong. They are the boxing animal for a reason,
it's
right?
True.
Yeah,
for sure.
So is there, I mean, obviously those are two very big projects. Is there something that you've worked on that you, outside of kind of what are the commercial Rushmores of what people probably know you for, is there something that you really enjoyed working on, or was a unique experience or a challenging experience? Was there something that was that you did that may not be as known as those that you think people should check out, or you just really enjoyed the process of?
What can I choose? Okay. There's an anime that I got to be in last year that I know it flew under the radar for a lot of people, but I think it's such a sweet show, and it's called Sakugan, and it was on Crunchyroll, and it was about like a father and daughter team, and they're like drillers, and they have this giant mech robot, and they embark on this journey because she keeps dreaming of this one place, and she's sure that she can find the answers to her dream if they can reach this place. Ooh. And so she and the dad, they like get in their big mech and they're like off on this adventure. And this whole story takes place underground. Everyone lives like underground.
Gurren Lagann kind of, huh?
Kind of Gurren Lagann. Yeah. And it's got like a fun cast, and it's such a wholesome show between father and daughter. And I got to play the little girl. And so I was just like, I never get to play roles like this. And it was so fun to do. And I feel like nobody got to see it. So if you are looking for a show that's just going to make you feel good and you get a little bit of robots, try Sakugan.
I'm going to have to check that out because it actually sounds right up my alley. So that's going on the list. That's going on the list for us, Joe.
Hell yeah.
What we also love to do in this show is... thank you so much for doing it again, by the way. And
thank you for having me.
It's honestly, I've loved every interaction we've had with each other, and I hope we get to have more.
Oh my gosh.
What we do is, as the nature of the show is called the points of experience, it doesn't have to be relevant to the industry or the career or acting, but is there an experience you've had in your life, whether it's with family, friends, a mentor, in the studio, anything, on the job, an audition, that you feel would resonate with someone who's interested in pursuing an artistic career or a voiceover career or acting career? Again, it could be more of like a life balance thing. It could be, the experience being in a relationship, anything that you think, an experience that had a profound impact on you that you think sharing would help out our listeners or be interesting for our listeners to hear.
Let's see. What can I say? I think that a lot of actors who are interested in getting into voiceover get really concerned with reaching some level of success by X date. Mm-hmm. Or if they haven't been booking, that something's wrong. And I went for years, maybe only booking one small additional voices session every 3 months, before I built up this body of work that led to me booking a video game that got me my SAG card that I got Taft-Hartley'd on, that led to my agent. But that's because I did this work little by little over the years. I probably could have put a little more effort into it for a while if I wasn't doing my day job, to expedite that. But I think if people are just patient, but also being purposeful and actually putting in the time and the effort and building those blocks, you're gonna see something. It may not be the same as what I got, and it may not be the same as what you have, but you'll get to something. And I think you have to be patient. It takes time, and it's different for everybody. And I think you have to take comfort in knowing that. I see so many people so anxious and so impatient for results. And if you're results oriented in this business, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah, that's so well said. Like you're saying, I see a lot of people who want X thing or specific, there's certain specific things that they want. Whereas I think the life of an actor as a performer, someone really as an actor, you fall in love with the art, and then these roles come around that you have a marriage with, It's rather than while people do manifest things, I've seen the stories about people saying they want this and then they get it, right? Yeah. Bob Bergen wanted to be Porky Pig, he became Porky Pig.
He got it.
So but Bob is also a great actor who's trained his entire life, and he is an actor. And there's a billion other things that have happened in between. And when people see that as a life, rather than just impatient because they haven't gotten X, Y, or Z, it kind of ruins the experience of what's so amazing about what you get to do when you're in the booth and do the job.
Yeah.
It's so much harder to enjoy it when you're only focused, enjoy the other things that are happening, in the beauty of the other projects you might, because who knows what's going to be successful? Who knows what people are going to fall in love? Who knows what's going to get a season 2? Who knows what's actually going to ever get made? The amount of things I've done that I've done great work on that have yet to see the light of day is crazy.
Totally. Preach.
So I think what you said is so beautifully said and important for people to understand is be patient. And when things happen, they will happen outside of your control unless you want to become a creator and make your own animated series or TV show or whatever, then more power to you. And then you do have control. Yeah. But the life of an actor and an artist, I think, is very unique to where you have to do the good work, put your 110 into every role you get, and then be patient. I think that's so very well said and important for people to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you have coming out, or people obviously on social media? I think it's your name on all your handles. Is there something that people you're excited about that you can share, or something that recently came out? Anything that people should be looking towards besides your wonderful recommendation we had earlier?
Well, everyone can follow me at Angie Yatco on, I think, all the socials, and I stream on Twitch, so come hang out with me. I mostly play Genshin Impact. I'm sure I'll be pulling for those new characters very shortly.
Heck yeah.
And I don't know if there's anything I can announce right now. But I'm at conventions a lot lately, so you'll see me at wait, what's next? I think I can say this. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna be at Anime Banzai in Salt Lake City next month, and also UbuCon in Arizona, and then KomoriCon in Portland in November, and Anime NYC in November, and Anime Frontier in December. So look for me.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun traveling, and I'm excited for you. I am
Thank
so
you.
happy for all the success you've had. Your journey from where you, or at least where your parents thought you were going to go, to where you are now is so amazing. And I think it's very encouraging for anybody who has a similar kind of story or background or pursuit in their college life. I think, if you love something enough, you're a testament that, you'll find the ways to do it and stay involved in it. And with patience, you will experience the fruits of your labor. So I'm so happy for you. And I think you're one of the most talented out there. I truly mean that. Every time I get to watch something, I'm a big fan of Jujutsu Kaisen. So I love watching everything you guys do. So just keep kicking butt. I love it.
Dude, thank you.
Oh, it is our pleasure.
You're awesome.
And thank you so much for being a guest on the show. We'll have to have you back when we start making those rounds for people to come back. But okay. I look forward to seeing whatever else comes out soon. So and until then, I'll have to catch up to you and your Genshin AR. Maybe I got to get back into it. So
Heck yeah.
Awesome. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know we were just saying this, but that was kind of one of my favorite all-around episodes, where it just had kind of everything you want from a podcast and a guest. It was fun, it was cute, it was quirky, it was educational, and just has that kind of very similar energy to me, and we kind of talked about it right in the beginning, where you understand the responsibility of being in this world and in this profession, but you also are like a really deep three-dimensional person. And my gosh, her educational background, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting 7 years of working. What was it exactly? She said she was like an expert witness? An expert witness. Oh my gosh. So that's like, I wonder if like an expert witness could be the people who, after a situation or an accident happens, it's like there's got to be a TV show about that. The expert witness shows up and they break down like what happens here, like an anime almost. Like you could see from the velocity of the car, the way that the person was hit, that the bone would have broken in this direct example. Like I feel like that could be a really funny anime. Expert witness the anime.
Honestly, after you said that, I kind of thought of. Do you know this group called? I think they're called RDC World.
No, what is that?
They make like TikToks and like. They're hilarious, but basically they did exactly that, but with anime, like protagonist stuff, where it was like he enters the room and everyone's hiding, and he's like, the way the wind blows on the left side of the couch, I know that you're sitting under the couch, and the kid comes out, he's like, oh, how do you know that? And it's like, it's a whole anime protagonist thing where he just basically...
Well, it's basically ripping from Death Note. I mean, that's, I think, where it, like, kind of really got popularized, that internal, like, dissection monologue, right? Isn't that, like, that's where I first experienced that type of stuff.
Honestly.
It is, but I feel like from, like, that clinical perspective, like, Death Note was the first thing that I saw where it was really, I mean, I'm sure there's someone's going to probably comment, actually, this was first, but, yeah, no, and that is crazy. I mean, I thought, I talk about patience. Doing a career like that for 7 years, people want to get something done quick and have the success happen in an instant. But, someone's working on their craft and patiently waiting kind of in the wings for 7 years and then finding their groove and their opportunity. That's really encouraging and impressive for anybody who's kind of interested in that career.
I mean, yeah, not many people are willing to do that. I mean, that's
yeah, you know,
about half
7 years
I'd
is
say.
yeah, heck yeah, 7 years is a chunk of time. That's a chunk of time, you know. Did you? No, you didn't play any of the Genshin when her character was out, right?
When did we stop?
It was definitely before I think she came out, so I don't remember that character being available. But I honestly, like, I'm curious about the storyline of her character because it seems so cool.
Oh yeah, I told you I want to go back whenever you want to play.
I know. There's certain characters that seem really like just the storylines. It seems like they're getting more intricate and it's more complex. Kind of like, because it seemed in the beginning there was like this general idea of like, yeah, there's these archons and they do magical abilities and it's cool, but now I feel like they're really kind of going in with individualized, like, unique like hero or villain storylines that I'm like, okay, yeah, that seems pretty freaking cool. Like, I think it's like the Raiden obviously is, you know, thunder and lightning or whatever, so it's
just
cool.
Thinking like I don't know if I'm going to remember my account because remember I made like
20?
The Scientist 1, the Scientist 2, the Scientist 3 until I got my
Oh, wait,
pulls.
you didn't stay with the number 1?
Well, because remember I did like 20 runs to get it was a legendary, right? Or what were they called?
5 stars.
Yes, the 5 stars. So I think I got up to like 20 accounts. I was losing my mind. You know that.
Yes,
what was happening. I was losing my mind. I was listening to Paimon, like her intro. Remember the intro where she just talks to you for like 25 minutes? I had to do that like 20 times.
You had to get to like level 20 first, right?
So I had the path down. I would jump on the rock, jump up. And I was basically speed running the freaking game for 20 times until.
I wonder if they've hot fixed that.
Was.
Gosh, we'll have to find that. But yeah, I'm curious. I'll have to hop in, or I'll have to watch one of Ant's streams and check out what's been good. I kind of maybe I'll do like a soft test drive and look at some streams and see how it is. But yeah, really great episode, really fun, and everybody should check out her stuff. Follow her on social media, or check out the con she's going to. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, no, she was awesome. That was great.
Yeah, I think if you go to her website, she has a list of those conventions coming up. So if she's in your local con or in your state, check it out. But otherwise, thank you so much. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe. Is that as fast as I can say it? Like, follow, subscribe. And leave a review for us. And
if you're a true Poxer and not an anti-Poxer, you will leave a like, a subscribe, and a review.
We got to make Poxer pins or something like that, and we give them out to people who do all those things, or like maybe part of our Patreon package that we are discussing internally. Yeah. We'll hand out Poxer pins. But yeah, stick around, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.